welcome back to another Let's Talk. This is Fahrenheit 13. Fahrenheit 013 or Fahrenheit to my friends. And I wanted to talk about Batman, the Arkham series, and some associated games. But I this game is what made me buy an Xbox One. Xbox One was the Arkham Knight. It's what made me buy an Xbox 360. And it's they're now available on PC and all that. Of course, I didn't have PC at the time. I had originally when the Xbox 360 came out, I had the latest system I'd had up to that point was a PlayStation 2, and I'm pretty sure PlayStation 3 was the equivalent console. And I just, I didn't care anything about games at the time. I was, not really playing any games heavily. Some of my friends had started playing Call of Duty, and I kind of got a little bit into that. And that might have been another reason that I bought this 360 at the time. But this game is what was probably the deciding factor, and that was Arkham Asylum. Because if I'm not mistaken, when I finally said, okay, that's it, I'm spending the money, I'm getting the console, Arkham City had been either announced or was on the verge of release. And I was like, I can't do this. I have to try to play this game because I knew it was good. I'd heard too much about it. I'd seen too many things about it. And I went all, I've got to try to do it. Funny that this doesn't give the Arkham Asylum website. It gave the Arkham City one. So I don't know what the release date was. I want to say it was 2009. Yes, 2009. I had to look it up. But, and if you have not played any of these games, just in case you haven't played any of them, this game is, to me, it probably has the best self-contained story. And when I say that, I mean if you have always just played Batman, not played Batman, read Batman comics, maybe watched the films or something like that, and you wanted more Batman, this would have been the game, and still is the game that I would recommend because you don't have to know anything about Batman other than that he's Batman. And it almost walks you through, well, and you have to kind of know who the Joker is, but it walks you through all the other aspects. And it introduces you to some of the villains that are probably some of the most prominent villains, not all, in the Batman series and comic books and stuff. And it really makes, for someone who was in their late young, like, I don't remember exactly when it came out, because when I was a kid but still a teenager is when the Batman 89 come out, and right after that was the Batman animated series. And for a young adult who normally, at that age, back in those days, cartoons were put aside. You started living in the real world and stuff like that. And yet, we all watched Batman animated series because it was such a well done series that although it didn't follow the comics, it respected the lore so well that you just couldn't help but want to watch it. And this video game took that and and recreated it where you could be Batman. And that was just something that, they had done games like this. Okay, they had done a somewhat open world, uh, or even open world, because they had done. Let's see. I want to say by the time they did Batman Arkham Asylum, they had done Spider Man, one of the games that followed one of the movies, but then expanded on the lore of Spider Man that was really well. And I think it was Spider Man 2. And the video game was called Spider Man 2 because it was paired with the movie. It came out within 3 to 6 months of the movie release with Tobey Maguire, and it expanded on some of the other villains. It actually had Mysterio in it, and that's one of the ones I remember. But I think it had the Rhino and a few of the other major Spider-Man villains. And it was open world. You just swung through the city of a condensed version of the city of New York, and it was like, wow, they could really do this. And then they tried it with Superman, and I think it was a Superman Returns movie, but I can't remember if that's what the video game is called. Um, but it just kind of fell flat, and they were like, why? This is the same basic premise as Spider-Man, which was successful, by the way. Um, this is the same basic premise for the video game, and he's Superman. Well, part of the reason was, when you are Superman in a video game, you expect to be kind of Superman, all powerful. And when, you know, six thugs with, oh, and by the way, in that game, like everybody had kryptonite weapons or something. I don't remember what all was going on. But it basically made it where it had to be playable, understandably so. But it just fell, and so to try to salvage, their Warner Brothers, to try to salvage their video game uh, market, I I'm pretty sure that's when they come out with Batman Arkham Asylum. And keep in mind, and I had to double check it, but yeah, keep in mind that this come hot off the heels of the release of The Dark Knight, which also, at the time that this was released, was they didn't have any idea where that movie franchise was going to go because Heath Ledger had died. And so they were like, "Oh my gosh, that just killed the movie franchise um, that they had intended, because they did intend originally to make 3 films, and they finally did. In fact, they talked about making 4. That's how successful The Dark Knight was up until, um, or how successful the Christopher Nolan films were up until Heath Ledger died. And when this game come out and it was a just amazing success, I think for the comic book version of Warner Brothers, who were really just struggling to figure out what to do, they breathed a sigh of relief because they were like, "Oh, something saved our franchise," because Batman is the franchise. He is the character everybody wants to keep up with. So they released Batman Arkham Asylum, and it takes you all the way through Arkham Asylum trying to recapture the Joker who has taken over the asylum. And there are so many elements of true detective style Batman in this, but at the same time, let you cheat. I mean, it basically gave you the technology, the detective work, the Joker that you expect, and at the same time, it's playable. It's there's a few elements. There's some elements in it that are puzzle based to make you think, and of course, that's another aspect for me when it comes to playing something like Batman is there has to be some kind of element to make the player think. Now you didn't have to follow through with all of that, but there were parts of it that you did have to, and it kind of led you with, hey, there was stealth, there was, uh, uh, I don't know how else to describe detective work, but um, the cognitive aspect of the game. There was the stealth. There was the fighting, the just raw beat 'em up aspect of it. Um, all of it encompassed in this game. And then when they expanded on it and went to Arkham City, uh, this is this is what everyone wanted. In reality, they just simply said we want, people said we want to go into Gotham City, and they said, okay, we'll do it however we can do it, and this is what they did, and they basically said, okay, well, it's Arkham, but it's in part of the city, so they took the same kind of concept that Nolan did with Batman Begins, and even again they did because they repeated the process in The Dark Knight Rises, but basically they quarantined in an area of Gotham City and said, "Okay, this is now a prison. This is how bad it's the old Escape from L.A. concept, Escape from New York and Escape from L.A. concept. Can't ever remember which one of those came first. I think it was Escape from New York came first, but anyway." And that's what it was. It took the Escape from New York concept and made it Batman and put it on a game, and it was terrific. It really was. You could do the gliding through the air, across buildings, the whole 9 yards, and then part of the game that I least enjoyed was a part that was still fun, and that was at some point you get to play as Catwoman. Now, there's DLCs where you download it and you get to play as Robin, and you have a little storyline, and Nightwing, I think, too, and I can't remember. There's a couple DLCs for it that you could play other characters, but to me, that's what they really should have done with Catwoman, made it like an add-on, but because it just felt out of place. All of a sudden, you're having to play Catwoman. Um, but I mean, it wasn't horrible. It just it felt out of place, and I think they all understood and agreed with it, and that's why when they went to Origins, now here's something else that I gotta bring up while I'm talking about Arkham City, Arkham Arkham Asylum and Arkham City were created by Rocksteady Games. Okay, and I'll get to some of these others, but Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. And then the Warner Brothers studio or whoever made the decision called on, what's the name of the company? Black something. I cannot recall. Let's check and see if we can go. Oh, that ain't gonna work. Okay. I can't remember the name of the company. Say it right here. Nope. I'm gonna find it. Okay, it was at the time it was called Blackgate, which of course is named after the prison of in the main prison that is not Arkham, the Arkham Asylum in the Batman series, but it was the company was called Blackgate, but what it really was, and I do remember this, what it really was a derivative of Warner Brothers games, and this was a good game. It really was. they did well. I don't know why they didn't take Rocksteady to bring them in on this one, but it probably had something to do with contract. You know, contract breakdown or whatever, and or maybe Rocksteady had already been tasked with the next generation, but I don't think so. This one came out in 2013, and uh, Arkham Knight came out in 2015. So it's entirely possible because I do know that Arkham Knight got pushed back, and the reason Arkham Knight got pushed back was because the platform, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One both got pushed back. Um, they were going to only release these on next gen platforms, which was PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and both consoles got pushed back by like a year nearly. I don't remember how long exactly, but and so when they were going to release it, um, and if I'm not mistaken, they still released it early, and it was only on PC because the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One had been released at that point. But I don't remember if they were that was I don't remember if that was the year that there was the hey, the Xbox One is out, get your free copy, where there's no retailers actually have any. And that was all going on. It's still going on. The platforms are still doing that. But I don't remember if this release date coincided with, and I'm pretty sure it coincided with the release date of the platforms in some way, but I just don't remember if this was after or before the release of the next gen platforms that were at the time. And but I went out. I know that I went out and got one after. Now it was after. It was well after the hype. I didn't play it upon first release. I rarely ever do that. If y'all are going to come to the channel to the Let's Talk and talk about a newly released game, literally the only one you're probably going to find right away, unless something just captures me and says I have to do it. The latest one has been Hogwarts, and guess what's going to happen? You're still not going to hear as soon as it gets released, I'm going to give you my take on it because I'm going to play the game. I'm not going to make videos. But so Arkham Knight come out, and a game that was just released that everybody was like, oh, it's the sequel to Arkham Knight, was Gotham Knights. No, it is not a sequel to Arkham Knight. It is a spiritual successor. It takes these four characters, Batgirl, Robin, Red, what they call him, Red Hood, and Nightwing. And I don't know which Robin this is. Obviously, Dick Grayson is Nightwing, but I don't know which Robin this is supposed to be. It looks to me like the Robin is the Tim Drake Robin because he's got the baton, the bow staff, which is Tim Drake weaponry. Which honestly, this is my favorite time frame. Now, what I will say is I have not played this game. When I found out it was just a spiritual successor, and I've heard some issues that people have had with gameplay. I'm not going to go over those. Y'all can watch reviews. But I was just like, okay, I guess I'm not going to go out and get this game. I was wanting to. I really was. I was wanting to get it because I wanted to see what it was like. Because it looks to me like it's along the same lines. It has the same kind of graphics and what appears to be. Of course, this is just relative amount of footage. Um, But it's like, yeah, let's see if they tell us which Robin this is supposed to be. Yeah, Tim Drake. Okay, so they did. To me, that's correct. That's what they should have done. I know that in the new Warner Brothers movie universe, they're talking about kind of doing away with pretty much two or three different Robins that are in between Dick Grayson and or maybe even doing away with Dick Grayson. I don't know, but um, and basically doing the what's his name, the son of Batman one that they're stuck on now, which is a good storyline. Don't get me wrong. It's Talia al Ghul's daughter. I mean son. Um, but I can't remember his name right offhand for some reason. But the new Robin, gosh, Damian Wayne. Um, so Damian Wayne is the new Robin. And I just saw a couple other things that they always trying to update these characters for modern audiences, and the funny thing is people just stop caring about that stuff. In fact, they stop caring about the characters when they try to do that. And for some reason, Hollywood and these big corporations listen to Twitter to find out what they think they need to do. Or I don't even think it's that anymore. I'm beginning to think it's just that they've got people in charge that don't know what they're doing. But anyway, I'm not going to go into political correctness for this channel if I can keep from it. Um, but they did take a Robin that has a good weapon. They took the Red Hood, which is obviously um, designed after and probably is um, Jason Todd. So you've got three basic Robins and then Batgirl. Now, who is the Batgirl in this one? They are doing Barbara Gordon. So it looks like they took the original Batgirl, which is odd, but that's what they did. Because in Arkham series, Barbara Gordon had already become Oracle. She had been shot by Joker in like the what was the name of the series? It was the Man Who Laughs series, a part storyline. I think was it. I think it was the Man Who Laughs uh, Batman storyline that Barbara Gordon got shot, became paralyzed, and became Oracle, and that's what happens in the Arkham series. Um, I can't recall how much which I think it was just Arkham Knight, but I'm not 100% positive that it was just Arkham Knight that Oracle was in there. But yeah, in Arkham Knight she was Oracle. But in this game, I keep wanting to call them movies. Um, she's Batgirl. Now I would not completely discount the possibility of getting this game, except that Rocksteady, and I kind of alluded to it when I jumped to Rocksteady games earlier, Rocksteady is coming out with another game that doesn't have as much to do with Batman. I don't know if Batman is in it, but this Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Now, what what is the premise for this? If I had to guess based only on the title, and that's pretty much all I have not watched any of the the leaks or the takes or any of the trailers or pretty much anything for the game. I don't even know when the game comes out. But we'll click on this here in just a second to find out. But if I had to guess, I mean, obviously they're taking the Will Smith version of Deadshot, So they're taking the Suicide Squad from the movies, making King Shark more Rambo. I don't know what that's all about. Um, but it looks like they're taking the Margot Robbie version of Harley Quinn, the the dead shot of Will Smith, and then they're adding the who's that? Captain Boomerang looks like. Now, is it going to add any more Suicide Squatters? I don't know. Who knows? I doubt it. They'll probably stick with the main four characters. Um, I don't even know what style of game this is going to be. If it's going to be a story driven like Batman, or open world like I should have said story driven like Arkham Asylum, or if it's going to be open world like Arkham Knight. Um, it is still story driven, Arkham Knight is, but it had the open world element starting at Arkham City, which for the time, Arkham Asylum was open world. Um, it was just story driven open world. But you can go back and forth and pretty much go anywhere in there that at that particular area or level you had unlocked. So that's open world as best as they could do back then for sure. So I don't know if this is going to be an open world or story driven game. I don't know if it's going to be a team up game where you pick a character, or if it's going to be more like Left 4 Dead where you you take on the Justice League and instead of zombies or something. I don't know. I figure there's got to be something surrounding the idea that for some reason King Shark is now Rambo. Um, they've all got guns, they've all got attack weapons of some type, and that's so I don't. It seems very repetitive for the character wise. Now, obviously, there's probably going to be some gameplay differences, but for Captain Boomerang to have a gun in his hand makes me think that they're probably trying to make it as even as possible when you're playing each character, so that it feels the same. Okay, but I don't know. I don't know. It looks like it could be an interesting game. Um, and I did want to mention game that come out that I'm surprised they haven't actually gone for a third version, because it's basically been this like almost the same game every time. Um, but they did Injustice, which was way back. I don't remember when it was released, and then they did Injustice 2, and the way they're doing Injustice 2, of course, it was released several years ago. When was it released? 2010? No, that's 9 out of 10. 2017. I thought, man, 2010, that couldn't have been. 2017, I think it was when it was released. And it was fun. It was a good fighting game. It's a side fighter like Mortal Kombat or something like that. That's pretty much what it is, but it has a story to it, and that's always good. Any of these side fighters, if you're going to try to play through the game, um, and not try to be like competitive, or make it where this is something that you're doing with your buddies on Friday night, then it has to have some kind of fairly good story. And of course, they introduced the Ninja Turtles and some of the other. I think there's two Mortal Kombat characters in it. They have Hellboy in it. Just there's different things going on with this game that they did neat. Um, they introduced Adam. Um, they had also playable. They had Dark Side, which was different and weird. Um, so that was fun, and you could change the costume and change the character to make it your own. So that was kind of neat too. Uh, but the story pretty much revolved around Supergirl, as opposed to Injustice, which are all almost completely revolved around Batman and Superman. Um, yeah, and I'm really surprised that they didn't come out with like an Injustice 3 yet, or at least they haven't announced that they're working on it, because it's been what, 6 years. But I think what happened was they didn't get the 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 sales and the response that they wanted from Injustice 2, because they got really good Injustice response originally, and then when they come out with Injustice 2, it just kind of fell a little bit flat. And part of the reason, in my opinion, was because they did away with some characters. There were some characters that were in the original Injustice that were not in Injustice 2, and it's like you're taking characters out instead of just, they had the same number of characters but introduced different ones. And then when they did the DLCs, they didn't go back and add characters they had in the other game. So the only DLCs they ever added were these Ninja Turtles and things, and people were just like, I don't care anymore. So I kind of, what is this? Justice League gear. Oh, okay. They did gear that is based around the movie Justice League. I got it. But yeah, they could have done this a lot better. And in my opinion, what they should have done with it was expanded on it, similar to the way they expanded. And I'm sorry, I'm breaking my time slot, but they could have done this game the way Super Smash Brothers Ultimate did, and that's allowing at least two players on a team to fight, and that could have been Injustice 3. Now we'll see, because probably they should have done it with Injustice 2, and then they could have had like 2-on-2 or something like that, or even a 4-on-4 with 4 players versus 4 computer generators, generated players, or they could even do online, because you get to do online fights and gameplay. I don't know why they didn't do it with teams. So to me, it would only make sense that they should have done teams, and that may be why the game failed. I don't really know. I'm sure they have their own reasons, and probably have their own reasons for why they haven't tried to do a third version of this, other than the fact that they didn't get the response they wanted out of the public. But we'll see. So that is my take on the Batman in video games. I almost want to just call it Batman in video games, but I'm not. I'm going to call it uh, Batman. Let's talk Batman and Arkham Asylum. And that's why it's called that. I really just made that decision. So y'all are hearing me make the decision before I actually release the video. Thanks for coming out. I do want to wish you guys Godspeed. I'm sorry I kept you about 6 or 8 minutes longer than I really wanted to, but sometimes I get to talking and I don't want to shut up. But you guys, we'll see you next time. Godspeed, everyone.